Hello all, and welcome back to Tangents on Cracked Spines. I've had a bit of an interesting holiday season. I won't get into too many details, but I celebrate Yule, the winter solstice, and went to work that night, so I didn't do any recording. There were also some other problems. And then I'm not smart enough to pre-record everything yet. But the December special is here. I meant to record it on Christmas Eve, and I was part of the 50,000 people that lost power in Maine. So I spent the Christmas weekend under 3 blankets and my Sherpa coat and 3 kitty cats all snuggled up to me trying to keep warm. Because we lost power on a 50-degree day, and then it promptly went to 15 degrees. And we were without power for 48 hours. Which, unless you have a hand-fed wood stove, no matter what power source you have, if you lose power, you lose heat. And because I've got a well, I also lost water. It was a wonderful weekend. But I digress. I'm sorry. The December story that won the vote on the Facebook page was The Legend of the Christmas Spider. Now, apparently it's from Eastern Europe and the Ukraine, and to the best of my knowledge, the furthest east my family is from is Germany. But it's a story I grew up with. Apparently other people had the Christmas pickle. I grew up with the Christmas spider in my family's tree. And I like it better being pagan. But there's a couple different versions of it. And by having a spider in my tree, I do mean, of course, there are these gorgeous beaded spiders that we place in our trees. And even as a practicing witch, I still have a tree because it was pagan to begin with. But there's a couple different versions to the story. The one I'm most familiar with, that I was taught growing up, was there was a peasant woman, and on Christmas Eve she went into the forest and came back with a small fir to serve as a Christmas tree. She discovered that a spider had made a home for her babies in the fir's branches and didn't have the heart to sweep them away. The spider discovered that the woman was too poor to decorate the tree, let alone place presents beneath it, and hatched a plan out of gratitude and kindness. Later that night, when the woman and her children went to bed, the spider spun sparkling webs all throughout the first tree branches. In the morning, the children woke up to the thrilling sight of a Christmas tree draped in the most exquisite, shimmering gossamer. The other version that I had heard, but I'm not super fond of, was there was this mother who had been cleaning for Christmas. Spiders fled up to the attic to escape the broom. On Christmas Eve, the spiders slowly came down for a peek, and oh, what a beautiful tree! So in their excitement, they scurried up and out along each branch. They were filled with happiness as they climbed amongst the glittering beauty. But by the time they were done, the tree was shrouded in dusty gray web. When Santa came in with gifts for the children and saw the tree covered with spider webs, he smiled because he saw how happy the spiders were, but knew how heartbroken the mother would be if she saw it covered in dusty web. So he turned the webs into strands of silver, and the tree was even more beautiful than before. And in case you haven't gathered, the Christmas spider legend is why we use tinsel on the tree, which I haven't been able to find. Apparently at some point we went from tinsel to garland, because I think people were throwing it out. Maybe it's because I grew up in a poor family, but we actually went through and picked the tinsel off the tree and placed it in the package for the next year. So, but I think we went to garland for environmental reasons. I didn't look that up. And here's a version that when I went looking for it written down somewhere that I had never heard before, but I really like it. So, a poor but hardworking widow once lived in a small hut with her children. One summer day, a pine cone fell on the earthen floor of the hut and took root. The widow's children cared for the tree, excited at the prospect of having a Christmas tree by winter. The tree grew, but when Christmas arrived, they couldn't afford to decorate it. The children sadly went to bed and fell asleep. Early the next morning, they woke up and saw the tree covered in cobwebs. When they opened the windows, the first rays of sunlight touched the webs and turned them into gold and silver. The widow and her children were overjoyed, and from then on, they never lived in poverty again. That's a super sweet version of the story that, because they took care of this tree and had it growing in the middle of their living room. Nature provided for them. So, those are 3 versions. I'm sure there's more because I had only known of 2 of them, and I grew up with this legend. I got the 3rd one from agrilife.org. I'd never heard of it. But I hope you enjoyed my little rambles about the Christmas spider and why we have tinsel or silver and gold garland on our Christmas trees. It's also one of the many reasons why I personally love spiders, because I grew up with them being a symbol of good luck and prosperity and just, literally a part of my Christmas traditions. So, sorry this is such a short episode, and most of it is me complaining about life. But I hope you learned something, that you enjoyed the story of the spider. And I was thinking, I listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of them have an email. Is that something that all of you would be interested in? Is if I set up a email account for this podcast? Would that be an easier way for all of you to contact me? Or is part of it, because it's such a long name, but I couldn't resist. Because I go on tangents, and not only is Cracked Spines kind of macabre sounding, but it's literally what you do when you open a book. You crack their spine. Especially if you've read it a lot. I will not be monetizing these little ones, and I do plan on having these bonus episodes at least once a month. So if you go to my Facebook page, Tangents on Cracked Spines Book Club, or if you go to my personal TikTok or Instagram at FrankieCore92, that's FRANKIE, CORE92, you can respond to me or in the reviews about what you'd like to hear next month. I'll see if there's something culturally relevant. I think Ramadan's in January. Because I don't want to just be focusing on Christian religions or Christian practices. Or I might just find some old poems that I like. I've also been thinking of creating a Patreon where everything else would still be free, but they would get a bonus episode of either my own writings, or which would kick me back into writing more again, either or their own stories, have a second story being read at the same time as the main podcast, or just, short stories, public domain stuff, like books of poetry or or religious texts, what have you. I'm game for all of it. But I've rambled on a lot, so thank you very much for listening, and I hope all of you had a wonderful holiday season, or will have a wonderful holiday season if you're going into one. And Happy New Year, that's coming up. Pretty sure most people do that, celebrate a new year. Talk to you next time.